What's up, Mets fans? Welcome to Mets PostGame Show right here on the channel. How is everybody doing today as the Mets did beat the Houston Astros in game 5 of spring training, 5-0, 10 hits, uh dominating performance in spring. Again, nothing crazy. We're not going to go overload here and get excited, but there was some nice things to say and to see in this game. Some people might not have been able to watch it. Some people might have just listened to it on, the radio, whatever you needed to do to get into this game. But it was a really nice game. Obviously, Nolan McLean did pitch today, which is obviously something to watch as well. He pitched extremely well, and we'll get into all of that. Hit that like button, guys. Subscribe to the channel. Possibly Chris will be joining, possibly not. I know we had a lot of stuff going on today, so if you can't, I'll just hold you down for about a half hour or so, get you through the game and stuff like that as well. So this is the official new logo of the Mets post game show with myself and Chris's logos. And let us know what you think about it. It's a pretty cool logo. I thought it would be pretty cool to change up the logos for the year and get a little bit more pizzazz out of the logo for pregame and postgame. That intro was just a little snippet into the new intro we're gonna have. Obviously, a lot of people know what our shows, or at least with the pregame and postgame show or a hot stove show. We got some intro music. I think we're gonna have a pretty cool postgame intro coming into the season, and I'm working on the pregame show intro right now. So I thought the logo, I put some work into it to see if we can get a pretty decent logo in here with our logo, with our channel logos, icons on it, and all that stuff. So it looks pretty cool looking at it from this point of view. Obviously, I was, looking at it from a different point of view through a, different lens. But right now that I see it, it looks pretty cool. So hopefully it looks well on the screen for you guys. And again, this is only a snippet of what it might look like for the post game this year. You're gonna have the pitching line. You're gonna have, if there's a save in the game, you're gonna have the score, the box score, and all that fun stuff as well. I'm probably going to expand it a little bit, make it a little bit bigger, just so everybody can have a better idea, change the colors around. So again, it's spring training for us as well when it comes to, changing up new things and making it look like, presentable and viewership. So obviously, the Mets colors right now is a little bit in the progress. I'm probably just going to go all white with the numbers just to make it a little bit easier for everybody to see, because some people might be watching on a phone and it's not easy to see everything, especially if you're on a phone. It looks a little bit smaller. So we'll just see. Miguel, I don't know what Mendoza has against Dylan Ross. Here's the thing when it comes to Dylan Ross, guys, and I know there were some people talking about it on X as well. There's not many spots in this bullpen that are open for the season. There isn't. There might be one spot available, and they might go more veteran in that spot than a guy like Dylan Ross. Not saying that Dylan Ross is, look, if Dylan Ross has an outstanding spring and he forces his way on the team, who cares? We know he has a great arm. He did have walk issues in spring in the minors, and that's something they could be worrying about. And again, the Mets have signed a lot of guys, the Kimbrels of the world, the Garcias of the world, guys that are veteran guys. Some on minor league deals, or some got major league deals that have the chance to make the team. They're probably going to go more the veteran route. And I'm not mad about that. Again, Dylan Ross is projected to be a guy that should be a late inning type of guy, possibly closer in his future. But if there's one spot available in this bullpen, I don't mind going the veteran route, especially when what we saw last year, where the bullpen was a complete and utter disaster, along with the start and pitching that basically crippled our season last year in 2025. So I'm not too worried about it just yet. And again, the same thing goes with Carson Bench, right? Carson Bench was not given the right field job out of spring training. He has to earn it. And if you notice, the Mets brought in, MJ Melendez. They brought in Mike Tauchman. Those guys probably have a better chance of Carson Bench making the team than Carson Bench. And that might piss some people off, but at the end of the day, I like the fact they're not giving jobs to these kids. I want them to earn it. I think I talked about it a lot last year where there were some guys on this roster that did not deserve to be on this roster. And it annoyed me because it put Mendoza in a terrible spot. And I think this had more to do with David Stearns putting these guys on the roster than Mendoza putting these guys on the, or, having a decision to put these guys on the roster. And it put Mendoza in a bad spot because he felt like he had to play those guys regardless of the situation. If they're hitting well, or the guys they replace it is hitting as well, it just became a utter shit show in 2025. I don't want that again. I want it to be determined, hey, this guy earned a spot on the team. He's going to play. And that goes for Dylan Ross. That goes for Carson Bench. If Carson Bench hits 100 in spring training, I don't want him in right field. I don't care what projections he has. I don't care how high of a prospect he is. If you don't earn it, I don't want you on the major league roster. I want you in the minors getting better. And if it happens in May where right field's a problem and he's showing a lot of life and a lot of good things that he's working on in the minor leagues, then you bring him up. That's what I want. That's what I want to see. Nobody deserves a spot on this team. You got to earn it. This has happened over the course of many years, not just with the Stearns era and Mendoza era, happened with other eras and other GMs and managers as well. There was guys that constantly got on this roster that didn't deserve it, and they constantly were on this team. And I hate that with a passion. I hate it. Let Benj earn it and let Dylan Ross earn it. So let's just get started with the pitching. Obviously, we just talked about quickly Nolan McLean. The stat line, the pitching line is up there for Nolan McLean. He had an outstanding performance in 4 innings, which I love. If you notice, they're not really, going very slowly with guys. They're actually pushing these guys a little bit because, let's be honest, when the WBC happens in a week, or a little more than a week, these guys, if they're not playing in the WBC, they're just, they're playing, scrimmage games basically against themselves. And probably some teams are getting together to play, pickup games basically that didn't play in the WBC. So I like that they're not really pushing them hard, but, pushing that innings a little bit in the 2 times they pitched already. And he got 4 innings from Nolan McLean today with 6 strikeouts, 1 walk, 1 hit. He was outstanding today. And again, I'm not getting overly excited. I know everybody's going to be, oh my God, look at Nolan McLean. Again, facing a good Astros lineup. Again, nobody, it's not the end of the world. I know Pena was in there. You had Correa in there, Christian Walker. There wasn't a lot of guys that's, Jesse Winker. Nothing special in this lineup, a couple of guys, but it was nice to see Nolan McLean. And again, this is a guy that's already given a roster spot, given a rotation spot because of what he did in 8 starts last year, which is deserved. And it's nice to see him, mowing down guys in 4 innings, 6 strikeouts, 4 innings. I didn't see how many pitches he'd thrown, but again, there was probably a pitch limit. I'm assuming close to 60 something, maybe 70, which is nice to see because I think the next time he pitches, he has an opportunity to pitch in a WBC, but I could be wrong about that. So the good news is that when he does come back after the WBC, which will be 2 weeks before the season starts, he'll be in that 5th inning, 6th inning range where he can throw 90 pitches. So when opening day comes and his start comes around either on opening day or game 2 of the season, which I do believe Freddie Peralta is going to open up the season on opening day on March 26th. Guess what? We're in good shape because guys are going to throw the innings they need, throw the amount of pitches they need, stretch themselves out. So when the season starts, I'm not saying go above and beyond and let these guys throw 95 pitches in game their first, start of the season, but they can do it. And that's important. And that is what I want to see. And again, good start. We've seen a lot of good things today. And easy, I agree. I don't like, we got Nolan McLean in there. We got Clay Holmes. We got 2/6 of our rotation in the WBC, and both of them are starters. And that's concerning, right? But I don't think these guys are going to throw. Look, these managers know. Look, the manager of USA or the manager of all these countries, they know, even though this team, there's guys like, some teams, care more than others. Some managers want to win the WBC by any means necessary, but a lot of these managers are not going to overthrow these pitchers. They're just not. That's why they have a ton of pitchers on this team that can throw innings. So that's important. Again, I don't like McLean in the WBC or Clay Holmes. We got to hold our breath because, again, Nolan McLean is a huge part of this rotation. Clay Holmes is an important piece in this rotation. He's going to be a number 3 or a 4 in this rotation. It's risky for sure. That is risky for sure. But again, these guys, if they want to play in the WBC, I think we should allow them to play in the WBC. Or again, certain guys play in the WBC. If you have injury concerns, I don't want you playing. So we'll see. And McGill said, I don't think Ross has pitched an inning in spring as of yet. How is it going to win? But again, it's only the first 5 games, Miguel. Again, we don't know his pitching regimen. We don't know if they're trying to build up his arm strength and stretch him out. We don't know what they're doing with him yet. And again, there's time for him to pitch. It's again, he's a reliever, right? He's a guy that pitches an inning or 2. You can stretch. You don't have to worry about stretching out his arm, like crazy, like a starter, right? A couple of games here or there, he's ready to go. He'll get his opportunity. Don't worry about it. He will get his opportunity. And again, this can be a situation where the Mets want a veteran in that last spot in the bullpen. That could be the reason. And I'm not against it. Again, the Mets signed a lot of guys that are veteran guys to minor league deals with spring training invites that have opportunities to make the team, or guys who have major league roster or major league contracts that sign a major league contract that has an opportunity to make the team. And that's what you have to look at this point. Doesn't mean that Dylan Rose can't make the team, but I think they want a veteran in that last spot. And again, I'm not against it, right? Dylan Rose is a guy that has, control issues. You can't just throw this guy on the roster and put him in important spots in a game who has control issues. Just because he can throw 101 doesn't mean that you should just put him on the team and let him go out there and let's see what happens. You can't do that. This team can't afford for these things to happen. And like I said before, and I'll say it again, they got to earn it. And Dylan Rose is going to get his opportunities. He's a reliever. He doesn't need to stretch out his arm like a starter who needs probably 3 or 4, possibly 5 starts in spring training, probably 4 starts in spring training to stretch him out to 90 pitches or close to 95 pitches. He's a reliever. He's a guy that, 4 games in spring can stretch him out to the point where he's fine and ready to go. So we'll see with Dylan Ross. I don't think he's going to make the team. I don't think the Mets are, banging their hands down saying, hey, he has to make the team. You got guys like Luis Garcia. You got guys like that. You got Craig Kimbrell. These are veteran guys. And there's other guys that are on minor league deals as well that got spring training invites that they're going to look at. And again, relievers have more than enough games to work on their craft, work on their pitching. He's probably pitching bullpens almost every other day. He's going to be okay. We will see him in games. Not too worried about that just yet. When it comes to the, a week before the season and Dylan Ross hasn't got in there, then you can start to question. But we don't know. Is he dealing with an issue that we don't know about? Is he dealing with some type of injury that we don't know about? Right? We don't know all this, and we don't know all of this yet because he is not a pinpoint eye-watching guy that everybody's watching in spring training right now, and it might not be a story. Right? If Carson Benj is not playing, you're asking why. Not Dylan Ross at this point. So we'll see. It's not the end of the world just yet. He will get his opportunity. So just looking at the other pitchers that pitched today for the New York Mets, let me just roll it down. You had Robert Stock, again, minor leaguer. You had Anderson Severino, and you also had Ben Simon. Again, minor leaguers, they all pitched well. Stock had 6 strikeouts in 3 innings. Anderson Severino had pitched 1 inning, 1 strikeout. And Ben Simon pitched an inning, 2 walks, 2 strikeouts. So these guys pitched well. And it's nice to see. Again, we basically hit home runs today. Tyrone Taylor started off with a 3-run homer in the 2nd inning. Marcus Semien hit his first home run of spring, hitting the solo home run. And also Jared Young with another home run in spring training. That's home run number, I believe, 2 already. And he knocked in a couple of guys as well. If I'm not mistaken, I think it was, I'm sorry. Yeah, Marcus Semien hit a home run, and I'm sorry, Jared Young got a sac fly, bringing in Ronnie Mauricio to make it the 5th run. So, good news is that, you're seeing Tyrone Taylor, again, a guy that's probably going to be our 4th outfielder. I don't believe they're going to put him in right field. I think Tyrone Taylor is a guy who has to be the only way this Mets team, or at least one of the ways the Mets can have a successful season, is if Tyrone Taylor is a 4th outfielder. He is a guy that is perfect to be a 4th outfielder. He can play all 3 outfield positions. He's a great guy coming off the bench late in games for defensive purposes. He's a guy that is clutch with his bat coming off the bench. That has been known for Tyrone Taylor since the Mets got him in 2024. It is nice to see. Hey, BG, it's the official We Hate the David Stearns podcast. Maybe I should change it to that, right? We haven't even talked about David Stearns. All right? When we talk about David Stearns, it is during the offseason, during hot stove season, when things are happening. And when spring training is about to start, and it already did, but when it's about to start, guess what? You're going to talk about the roster that David Stearns put together, right? And we don't know how this roster is going to look, right? I'm positive towards this roster. I am, right? Obviously, me and Chris are going to do a season's preview show later in March, right before the season starts. I'm going to tell you right now, my amount of wins are going to be pretty good. I'm positive about this team, but I said it before and I'll say it again. I don't think there's an in-between with this team. I think they're going to be very good, or they're just going to be bad. And I think everybody can understand why I'm saying that, because, if things go right and the players we brought in here do what they're supposed to do, I think this team can be very good. But there is a strong possibility with the players we brought in here. Some guys had down seasons. Some guys that were hoping to have low risk, high rewards that don't turn out, like a Luis Robert Jr. Marcus Semien might be old. It might be done. Bo Bichette might not have the season he had last year offensively. Guess what? That's going to be a bad season. Freddie Peralta might not have as good as a season as he had last year. Nolan McLean might take a step back. Clay Holmes, David Peterson, Kodai Senga, Sean Manaea might not be very good. That's all signs of a problem. Not having Diaz could be a major issue if Devin Williams doesn't pick up the slack as the closer. Luke Weaver, so on and so forth. A lot of things can happen here. So we have to understand that because I brought up David Stearns is about his roster construction this offseason. He had to completely overhaul this team by the moves he made early in or the lack of moves that he did, which was not sign Pete Alonso, not re-sign Edwin Diaz, trade McNeil, trade Nimmo. He had to revamp this team, and I think he did a good job revamping this team. But by no means is he getting a pass yet. He got credit from me for revamping his team the way the offseason started, with changing the core completely. But until we see what they do in 2026, because if they fail, Stearns is going to get all the blame, all of it, because he changed the core, which I'm not against. I said it before and I'll say it again. I'm not against changing this core. This core has done a lot of losing, and Met fans act like they've done a lot of winning, and they haven't. They've done a lot of losing, a lot of choke jobs, a lot of blown divisions, and a lot of embarrassing playoff losses and non-playoff appearances with that core that is no longer here. So, the way Met fans act around this core or the prior core, I mean, they act like they won 4 championships in 7 years. They didn't. They choked away divisions in 22 and 20 and last year. The year they had no expectations, they went to the NLCS. I don't want to have no expectation type of year walking into it and then getting surprised by a year. The Mets have too many of those. They need high expectations and doing what those expectations are presented to them. And when they're projected to win 90 games and make the playoffs, guess what? I want them to do that. I want them to do that. So we will see. Again, positions, defensive positions, Bo Bichette, Jorge Polanco, right? This is something that could derail a season. Guys who haven't played that position before, that is concerning, right? So as I said, and I say this again, David Stearns he gets credit for revamping a team the way he started this offseason by basically changing the core completely. And I wasn't against it. I wasn't up in arms like some people were. But just because he revamped a team after his decisions of not signing Alonso, not signing Diaz, trading Nimmo and trading McNeil, doesn't mean that he gets away with anything. Because if it's a bad season, Stearns is on the hot seat. I can guarantee you that. You can't have back-to-back losing seasons with a $350+ million payroll back-to-back years. This team looks off. Look, I can't say that, right? This team hasn't played completely together yet. Every guy that's supposed to start on this team hasn't started yet, right? When we get closer to this opening day and they start playing the full lineup and they're all playing 6, 7, 8 innings, then we'll see. And Dolo, I agree. Stearns is playing with fire. He is. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to step on him until this team succeeds or fails in 2026. Because if they play well, even though I think he still sets himself up for a lot of problems, because even if this team does do well, let's say they don't win the World Series, but they go on a pretty good run in the postseason and have a good season. Let's say they win 89 games. They don't win the division, but they make the playoff easily, no problem. And they go on a decent run. We have guys who are opting out. We technically only have Lindor and Soto as a core again. Simeon's another year older. David Peterson's a free agent. Kodai Senga's on his last year of his deal. Freddie Peralta, if they don't, extend him, is a free agent. So he has to do his job all over again that much harder to rebuild the team. And that's if there's a season next year. Dolo, am I concerned with Tong not having a good outing? No, I don't. You know why? Because I know he's not making the team. I never had that intuition that he's going to make a team at all. And I say this once and I say it again. I would have traded Jonah Tong to bring in a bona fide pitcher. I would have. Along with Freddie Peralta. I would have. I think because I really think the Mets are going to extend Freddie Peralta. And if you have Nolan McLean here and you're looking to extend Freddie Peralta, why is Jonah Tong here? Why is he here? To hope that he's good? No. I would have got somebody in here and packaged Jonah Tong with somebody else to bring in a guy like Sandy Alcantara, who is a proven starter and has a couple of more years of control. I would have done that. And I don't think Jonah Tong was bad either, right? His location was a little bit off, but he wasn't good. And the Mets did a bad job last year bringing him up when they knew he wasn't ready. His stuff wasn't developed. Just because he was mowing down minor leaguers doesn't mean that he was ready for the big leagues. And he clearly wasn't. He clearly wasn't. And this is the thing when I talk about, having guys in this farm system that is like, okay, if David Stearns felt like, okay, they're on the verge of getting Freddie Peralta, and there's a really good chance they're going to extend him, and you have Nolan McLean, you got your number 1 and number 2 for at least the next 5 years, because you would think Freddie Peralta was going to get an extension of at least 4 or 5 years, at least. So you're going to have your number 1 and number 2 for at least 4 or 5 years. Jonah Tong can be an ace, but he also can be a number 4, a number 5. I don't like taking those risks. I'd rather bring in a bona fide pitcher in here. And the Marlins, I guarantee you, if you go to the Marlins tomorrow and you offer them Jonah Tong for Sandy Alcantara, they'll do that in a heartbeat, 1 for 1. Why? Because they get rid of the money from Sandy Alcantara, and Jonah Tong, who is not developed yet, would be on the Marlins, probably in the rotation. And I don't care, because Sandy Alcantara would help this team right now compared to Jonah Tong. Pitchers are always a risk. That's why when people say, oh, develop pitchers in the minor league system, starters in the minor leagues, great. But we all act like these starters are just going to be aces or number 2s because they're top prospects, and they're far and few between. And when you're the New York Mets, a big market team, you can't afford to have 3 top pitching prospects and hoping for all of them to pan out, or at least 2 out of the 3. Dangerous game to play. Dangerous game to play. That is why big market teams sign top market free agent pitchers, because that's what you're supposed to do. You shouldn't rely on top prospects to go above and beyond. It's a dangerous game to play. So I'm not worried about Jonah Tong because he's not making his team anyway. He's got a lot to prove. He has a lot of development to do. You saw his development in pitches weren't at the level of a major league pitcher yet. Not saying he can't be, but I've said this and I'll continue to say this, right? Why did the Mets get Freddie Peralta? Because there's still question marks about Nolan McLean. That is why they got Freddie Peralta. If they were so 100% on board with Nolan McLean being the ace, they would have never got Freddie Peralta. They wouldn't have been a team that were looking for a top line starter all off season. So they got Freddie Peralta as definitely a backup, just in case Nolan McLean isn't the guy everybody thinks he could be. That's a fact. That isn't something that is me just throwing shit out there. They've looked for a top line starter all offseason, and they landed on Freddie Peralta. Why did they do that? Because there isn't enough trust in Nolan McLean yet to be a top line starter. There isn't enough evidence. 8 starts isn't evidence. 8 starts is a good sign, but there's nothing there yet. When he throws 30 starts and he pitches the way he did last season, then we'll have a conversation. And Carlos, 100% agree. 100% agree, right? The Mets talked about Jonah Tong needs to work on his breaking pitches, off-speed pitches a little bit more, right? His control. And that's great. That's perfect. I completely understand that. But in a situation of Jonah Tong, he knows he's not making the team. So I don't care about his outings. I don't care about, how good he looks. Because you know how many players are never even sniffing the major leagues that he's going to face in spring training? I don't care about the numbers. Just like, it was nice to see Nolan McLean strike out 6 guys, but I don't care about the numbers. Here's what I care about. How many pitches he threw and how many innings he went. Because that's what matters for the season. At least in total, in situations of stretching out his arm. That's what I care about. Right? I don't care. He could have thrown, he could have struck out every batter. I wouldn't have cared about that. I would have cared about the pitches he thrown and how many innings. Because that's what's going to matter. Stretching out his arm and what he could do. And right out of the gates coming into opening day. That is where I'm at. I'm not thinking about Jonah Tong. I'm just not. Because he's not a part of this team. He had a little cameo last year, and that's good experience. But he got to fix his mental makeup a little bit, because when he was getting hit around, he sobbed like a puppy who didn't get a treat, right? You got to keep your head up. Don't show any negative emotion like sobbing on the mound and putting your head down, because that's only fuel to the opponent. He's got to learn that mental makeup. Hey, it's not a good start, but you know what? I go out there and do it again next time and be better. He's a guy that mental aspect of the game is not major league ready yet. Go back to last year, watch a few of his starts. When he got knocked around, he had his head down and looking like a lost puppy. When his first start, when the Mets scored about 100 runs in that game, right? He was smiling, he was happy, right? You can't always pitch happy and smiling. It doesn't work like that in the major leagues. So Jonathan got a lot of work to do. But there was a lot of good signs because he does have the stuff. But a lot of pitchers have the stuff, but they don't have what it takes to make the major leagues and stay at the major league level, like control, like changing your repertoire around every time you see a team, right? That is why guys don't stay in the majors, especially pitchers. Because, like, if Jonathan, like a pitcher, like a starting pitcher, faces the Marlins, and you see him 3 times out of the year, maybe even 4 times, guess what? You have to change it up because they're going to know what you throw. You're probably going to get hit around because it's major league hitting. Nolan McLean seems like he's unlocked something. Like, okay, I know I got to face this team next time. Guess what I'm going to do? I'm not throwing, fastball, changeup, slider. A lot of the times I'm going to, you know what? I'm not even going to throw my fastball in a step back. I'm going to throw my breaking pitches off 3 pitches, right? When you change it up, you always have the hitters thinking. And I think Jonathan last year, guess what happened? He was predictable in his pitching. And I think that's why he looked not ready. And that's okay, right? Look, the Mets brought him up way too early. And it's experience, but he has to learn that. And right now he's a top prospect, but it doesn't affect me right now in spring training. And Dolo, of course they're confident in him right now. And Dolo, because he's on the roster. That's why. He's on the 40-man. Right? That's why he's taking pictures and portraits, making him if he's making the team. Looking like because he's part of it, right? If he has a good first 2 months of the season, 2 months, and somebody's struggling, Jonathan might be up here. That is why. But just because they're taking pictures doesn't mean nothing at all. So they can be confident all they want in him. If they're that confident, then put him in a rotation, right? But they're not that confident, right? Actions speak louder than words, Dolo. All right? They could say whatever they want to the media, but actions speak louder than words. If you're that confident in him, throw him in the rotation over a Sean Manaea or a Kodai Senga, who is a complete, who knows what they're going to be. Right? So they're not that confident in him. If they were, he would be a part of this rotation, but he's not going to be. So again, it is what it is at this point, guys. I'm not concerned about it because I don't think Jonathan's making his team. He's probably not. But what we have to look out for is Nolan McLean starts, right? Stretching out his arm, how many pitches he's throwing, how many innings. I know he's working on certain pitches. He's a guy that has changed up his starts from start to start last year, which is a great sign of a guy who can be a really good major league to a great major league pitcher. Right? We've seen a home run from Simeon. We've seen a home run from Tyrone Taylor today. Mets win 5-0, 10 hits. All the pitchers that pitched today, there was 4 of them. There was 3 others other than Nolan McLean. All pitched well. Obviously, if you put 0 up on the board, they clearly pitched well. So good signs. It's only the 5th game of spring training. I think there's another about a week of games until the WBC. So we'll keep an eye out on that. And with that said, guys, I want to thank you for watching the first Mets post-game show of 2026. Got the new logo ready to go, as you see on your screen. Ready to, again, the new intro that everybody talks about it. Like, honestly, like the comments I get, the emails I get, I tell you right now, guys, it's so funny. Like, there was 3 people that came up to me in Port St. Lucie in spring training that, says, hey, I'm a subscriber of the channel and all that stuff. And, they like the intro, they like the music, all that fun stuff. So that's great. Chris, I never said he wasn't ready for the majors. See, again, you got to listen. And again, I know that's hard sometimes for some people. I never said he wasn't ready. I says Met fans are anointing him a top-line starter when he's had 8 starts. A lot has to happen for him to continue to be at the level that we all hope he is. You got to understand that. Again, comprehension is a key to the English language. You got to understand that, Chris. I never said he wasn't a major leaguer. I says he has to continue on the path that he's going on. There's a lot to do still. He is a major leaguer for 8 starts. If that considers you a major leaguer, then you have a different definition of a major leaguer. He has a lot to prove still because he hasn't had 30 starts in the major leagues. He's still a rookie because of the amount of pit games he's pitched in. So if he's still a rookie, what does that tell you? That he still has a lot to prove, right? Don't anoint him an ace yet. Don't anoint him a top-line starter until he proves it. And I think he has the ability to do so, guys. Obviously. But don't put him on this pedestal when he hasn't shown it more than 8 starts. That's crazy. The Mets brought in Freddie Peralta because there's not enough evidence of Nolan McLean being a top-line starter yet. That is why they brought Freddie Peralta in here, to be a security blanket just in case Nolan McLean takes a step back. And what I mean by taking a step back, I'm not saying he's going to be a complete zero. I'm talking about maybe he's a good pitcher, but not lights out like he was last year, which is not a bad thing. It's okay. If he's a good starter, we'll take that. The Mets didn't have that last year all season. It's up until when he came up. So pay attention to what I say. I didn't say he wasn't a major leaguer. I say he still has a lot to prove to continue his major league career. Big difference. Comprehension. ABCs 1, 2, 3s, guys. It's not hard to listen. With that said, thank you for tuning in to Mets postgame show, first of 2026. Unfortunately, Chris had a lot to do, so he couldn't make the postgame show, which is fine. Again, spring training for all of us, right? So let me know what you guys think of the logo. This is the new postgame show logo for the 2026 season. Intro music is already ready to go. We won't see that until opening day, so it's going to be a lot of fun. So, guys, thank you for tuning in to the Mets postgame show right here on the channel. Mets win 5-0, 10 hits for the New York Mets. Guess what, guys? Nolan McLean looked good. Simeon hit a home run. Tyron Taylor hit a home run. And we'll continue the rest of spring training and seeing who actually makes this team. Not a lot of spots available. We're still looking at Carson Bench, who was 3 for 3 yesterday, which is a good sign. But again, he has a lot of work to do. He's another one that has a lot of work to do. And there is no guarantee he's going to make that team. So have a good day, guys. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday. Let's go, Mets. And we'll see you next time, guys. Have a good day.
Meet the Mets, meet the Mets. Step right up and greet the Mets. Bring your kiddies, bring your wife. Guaranteed to have